Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It is Sharifah Hardie, host of Ask Sharifah Videocast and Podcast. And I am here today, this afternoon, with a very special guest. And you know, when I do an Ask Sharifah Videocast and Podcast interview, it's because I'm bringing you a very special topic. We have been speaking this month about breast cancer awareness. We have been talking about the seriousness of cancer. And now we're going to focus on how we can help you stop from being harassed with the president of Sue the Collector, Mr. Jared Johnson. But before we introduce him and before we bring him on, I'm going to ask you to do what I always ask you to do, and that is to go ahead and share this show because friends don't let friends miss out on Ask Sharifah Videocast. So send a message, text, tweet, inbox, post it on Facebook. We are live and we want everyone to get this information because it might just save you a lot of money. Good afternoon, Jared. How are you?
I'm excellent. How are you, Sharifah?
I'm excited to have you here. Do you know I've been posting this week about how not to be harassed by bill collectors, and people have been emailing me, inboxing me, sending me messages. They're like, Sharifah, we have to make this show. So it seems that this is a really big problem.
It's a huge problem, and with the virus thing going on right now, and with all of the trouble we're seeing, that is really ancillary cause of the virus. We're seeing a lot of people put out of work unnecessarily. We're having government bodies saying who's essential and who ain't essential. We're seeing, stimulus payments being given out, then being held up, and then all sorts of promises, and then nothing. And you know what? You can blame Democrats and Republicans and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, we still got to pay our rent and our bills and our light bill and heat bill and bill bills and insurance payments and everything. And when the money's gone, the money's gone. And so when that happens, companies fall into a routine, and they do it for their own benefit. And what they do is they start shipping those bills to debt collectors because they need to collect that money somehow. And so that is what we're talking about today. We're talking about what happens once those bills start to go into default, and once they start getting shipped out to debt collectors. And it goes fast. I mean, I remember back in the day when I used to make no money, and and I still make no money practically these days. I mean, honestly, the thing is that the process is quick. I mean, sometimes after 30 or 45 days, you'll get a letter from a third party debt collector that you've never heard of before. You've never heard of this company. And you know what? I want to just advise everyone listening right now that if you get a letter from a debt collector that you've never heard of before, and you're like, why is this company trying to collect money from me? I don't have a contract with them. I have a deal with them. They can't do this to me. I just want to let you know they can. They really, really can. They have the right. They are hired by the company that owns the debt to collect the debt now. And so you may get a letter from a company like Hunter Warfield. They're a real company. They're in Tampa, Florida. Or you might hear from another company called Portfolio Recovery Solutions. They're huge. There's multitudes of these companies like AFNI and Midland and all sorts of them, asset acceptance and convergent outsourcing, and they all work to collect debt. All of them do. And they're all registered with a company called the ACA, the American Creditors Association. What they do is they collect debt. And so, first and foremost, if you get a letter from any of these guys, you're going to want to save all your letters. Please, I beg you, don't throw letters away. Don't ever throw letters away, because we need you to collect everything, and we need you to keep a good copy of everything, because believe it or not, we're going to start there. First and foremost, debt collectors violate what's known as the FDCPA, or the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. It is federal law. It applies in all 50 states. And there are rules within the FDCPA that apply to third-party debt collectors. And they sometimes apply. In California, the FDCPA actually technically applies to first-party debt collectors too, which is great. So if you have a payday loan with some crazy guy on East LA, believe it or not, he even has to abide by what's called the California Rosenthal Act. In California, they have to abide by behaviors, and they cannot harass you and intimidate you to collect the debt. So bottom line, if you get a letter from a debt collector, I want you to save it. I don't want you to try and figure it out. I want you just to save it, because a lot of times the lawyers that work for me, they love those things, because those debt collection letters can be violations, and that's the key to getting everything overturned. So what we're going to do is we're going to look real close at the way they wrote that letter and the words they used in the order in which they used those words, because what a lot of companies will do is they will write a bad debt collection letter, and a bad debt collection letter can be a violation under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. So let's go to step 2. What does that mean? If you get a bad debt collection letter and you have a violation on your hands, you turn it over to us. You let us deal with it, because what's going to happen is we're going to take you on as our client. We're going to sign you up. Does it cost anything, Sharifah?
Does it?
No, it doesn't. It can't cost anything. We're not going to charge you a dime. We're not going to ask for any money up front, on the front, back, left, right, nothing. We're not going to ask for any money. We want you to sign up, and there's no hurdle whatsoever. You don't have to think about how much money you got to come to get us. We're going to sign up for free for you, and we're going to work for free for you all the way to the end of the day. So that's great. So just don't be intimidated. Sign up. You get a free attorney for you. That's a really great deal. Secondly, we're going to figure out where the violation is, and we're going to file a lawsuit against this company. We're not even going to warn them. We're just coming straight after them. We're going to get them, and we're going to put them in a chokehold right away, because we want to remind this debt collection company that they are not going to intimidate you. And that is the position we want to put them in. And what happens? They settle. A lot of times, 99% of times, these companies will settle. Settlement for you is going to mean 2 things. One, they're probably going to write you a check. They're going to actually give you money for doing what they did, believe it or not. Even just writing a bad debt collection letter, they're going to write you a check. Do you like money, Sharifah?
Yes, I do. I'm a big fan.
I'm a big fan of money too. I love money. I have been collecting these checks ever since I started this thing like 8 years ago. The first time I did it, I had a lawyer send me $500 cash. That's not so bad. But you know what the really crazy thing is the debt was gone. I didn't owe it anymore. It was completely wiped, like it never even existed. That's amazing. And we're talking like whole credit cards completely vanished into thin air, never to be seen again. All sorts of student loans, all sorts of utility bills. I've had garbage bills. People send like, I didn't pay the garbage man or something like that, you know, and these third-party garbage delivery companies, they send their debts over to a debt collector. I didn't pay it when I couldn't afford it when I lived in Minnesota one time. And you know what happened? It's gone. The guy threw it in the trash. He didn't want to get sued. And so these are what happens. We turn this stuff around really fast. And we've been doing this for a long time now. And these laws have been on the books for almost 35 to 40 years. But we're really starting to start focusing on this stuff because people really need help in America. And there are multitudes of ways. The bad debt collection letter, that's just one little thing. There are way too many ways for these debt collection companies to actually violate. So the easiest thing, I'm going to paint this in 3 easy steps. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm ready. The number one way they will violate to you is if they lie to you. If a debt collection company lies to you in the bad letter, see, a bad letter is really just a lie, because if they actually write it wrong, they're lying to you in writing. That's a lie. See, that makes sense. If they call you on the phone and they lie to you, they say something crazy like, the sheriff is coming to your house today. We're going to deliver papers to your house today. Lie, 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 lie. Those are all lies. We're going to tell them to, it's just, you say, that's the, no thanks. Don't believe them. They're lying to you. They're trying to trick you into getting your debit card out of your wallet and pay the bill on the phone. Don't pay any debt collector over the phone. Don't pay any debt collector over the phone. What did I say, Sharifah?
Don't pay any debt collectors over the phone.
Don't pay them, because you don't know who they are. They could be anybody. Why would you give your money away to just anybody? Don't do that. You need to make sure, if you're going to pay a debt collector, you need to make sure who they are. You need to actually have a physical address so that you can actually see who they are. Because there's all sorts of scammers are running scams out of their apartments. They will call you with your name and number they stole from some database or something, and they'll try and collect debt from you. It's insane. Don't do that. Secondly, if they lie to you, they are going to owe you money. That's a big violation. Secondly, if they're unfair to you, you know what's unfair, Sharifah? And I'll tell you what's unfair. Unfair is when they call you at work and they
Mm-hmm.
ask for you, and then your boss answers the phone, and this is, hey, this is Mary with an important business matter. I'm looking for Brian. That stuff is bogus. It's unfair. And you know what? Your boss actually can tell that person to never call back, and they should. And secondly, you can tell that debt collector, never call me at work again. And if you tell them that and they do it again, guess what? That is a violation of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. And in fact, if they do it again and your boss answers the phone again, your boss can sue the debt collector too. There's two cases that just popped up out of thin air. Your boss actually has standing now because they violated the boss's rights, and it becomes an unfair, so unconscionable, unfair means to collect any debt is a violation of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. That means intimidation, harassment. They cannot bother you incessantly over and over again. They just can't do it. So we want you to know that anytime that a debt collector treats you unfairly, you have a violation on your hands. And so anytime they, like, say, for instance, if they agree to a post-dated check and they cash that check right away, unfair. They can't do that. That's stealing money. You have a violation on its face. If you tell them, hey, I'm gonna work something out with you, and then they start taking money from you, and they out of the arrangement, it's all unfair. They just can't do it. They even try to collect debt that you never agreed to. Let's say, for instance, in your lease, you had to move out of your apartment because you were evicted because you couldn't pay your rent no more. And then they tried to tack on all these charges, all sorts of things that were not even written in the original lease agreement. And they tried to collect interest on this debt as well. So all of those things are unfair. They can't do that. And if they try to, you have a great case. You just turn it over to us. We'll take them to court. We'll sue them, and we'll get the whole thing thrown out, and we'll get you some money in your hands. Unfair is the biggest target in the world, but it absolutely encompasses so many things. So when a debt collector is actually bothering you and you think something unfair is going on, turn it over to us. We'll look at it. We'll figure it out. It's no big deal. Thirdly, so we have lying, we have unfair, and we have embarrassing. And so if they embarrass you, a lot of times, embarrassing is really a big one too, because there's just so many ways that they can embarrass you and try and intimidate you. And a lot of times like I said, I mentioned this earlier, they'll call you and say, like, the sheriff is coming to your house and things like that. It's very embarrassing. And, a lot of times they'll even say, we're going to come to your work. Embarrassing. They just can't do these things. We even saw where one landlord was texting this guy because he found out that his tenant got his stimulus money. He used the person's information to go on the federal website and actually see if that person got their stimulus money or not. And he noticed that the person had. So he's maliciously using this person's private information that he has no right to do on a federal website at all to see if the person actually has any money on them, and then goes and tries to collect money from them like that. In California, that's a massive violation. They can't do that. And so that's a case. It's embarrassing. They're not allowed to do that. And so anytime this is happening, you have the right to turn the tables on debt collectors and do something about it. Now, what have we done? And I'm going to tell you, in literally 6 years, I've been running Sue the Collector for a long time now. And I've been working with the top attorneys in the United States today. We work with guys in California. There's a guy in Costa Mesa named Abbas Kazarunian. This guy is going before the U.S. Supreme Court on a case right now. He actually has won so much money. I think he's up to $800 or $900 million in recoveries that I know of so far in the state of California, other places. He also works with some really talented guys that are named Hyde and Swigart. He works with Todd Friedman in LA. These guys are huge. We also work with another law firm called the Suleiman Law Group in Chicago, Illinois. They cover about 30 states in the United States. And all we do is we get these cases over to these guys and they run. And I know for sure that with Sue the Collector, we have killed over $1 billion in consumer debt so far. And that is everything. I mean, everything. We're talking whole cars, mortgages. There was a lady in Chicago. She just got her mortgage, the whole thing knocked out because the mortgage company made a mistake in her bankruptcy. So they took it. And so she won $3 million at trial, Sharifah. She got to get $3 million. She had an $80,000 house. And this happened. We see these violations come up. We run with them. We make sure that debt collectors pay. And so we're not kidding around. So if you guys want to take us up on this. Try it out. Go to suethecollector.com. We're going to help you out. Now, will I help you out? I can't help you out with anything because I'm not an attorney. I'm basically Ray Kroc. You ever heard of Ray Kroc before, Sharifah?
Yes, I have.
Ray Kroc's from Southern California. Am I right?
Yes.
So Ray started something basically out of nothing. And what he did was he kind of hijacked another guy's business. I mean, if you know the truthful story, that's what happened. He was a shake machine salesman. He was rolling around selling these ridiculous, like 4 and 5 spot, oyster shake machines to restaurants. And that's all he was doing when he ran into the McDonald brothers in San Bernardino. And what happened is he realized that these guys had something. They had something massive on their hands, and that those guys were resistant to growing it and franchising it. So he did it, and he made sure that it happened. This is what I've done. This is what Sue the Collector is to me. I am Ray Kroc. Hello, how do you do? I have come into a business that I don't necessarily belong in, but I become the advocate and the evangelist of it. And I'm going to make sure that people get their burgers and fries. I'm going to make sure of it because you deserve it. You deserve a delicious burger and fry. I'm going to make sure you can get it everywhere in all 50 states. And I'm going to make sure that everybody gets the same treatment all across the United States. Because what I have seen is there are a lot of attorneys in the United States that do this kind of work, but there's very few that know how to make it work all across the United States. And that's where I'm involved. So this is what I want you to do. Come to my company, come to the website. What will happen is we will get that information to the right attorney in the right state or wherever you live. So you'll be working with a local lawyer, and then they can actually help you. Then secondly, we're going to go to bat for you. Or if you've got a great case or a violation, we'll tell you. If you don't have a case, we'll tell you. We'll be upfront with you. In fact, we'll even possibly help you work out a deal with the debt collector so that you're not paying as much. We've done that before. I've actually helped my friends take $4,000 or $5,000 credit card lawsuits and sell them for $500. All I had to do is figure out who the lawyer was and get a hold of them and get it settled. And believe it or not, these lawyers will settle for pennies on the dollar because they would rather get something than get nothing out of it. So bottom line is, if you come to our website, come to our company, we will help you out with this. And we will get you money in your pocket if you have a case. We will put an attorney in charge of this thing for free. They will never charge you a penny for anything. And we will help you out. And we will, if you're in any kind of bankruptcy or other kind of thing like that, and you've got debt collectors still coming after you inside of the bankruptcy, that's great. That's something we can help you with, believe it or not, because those are consumer law violations. And, Sharifah, if somebody's trying to repo your car in California, you almost have no chance, believe it or not. They have no chance to take your car. Repos in California are almost completely prohibited in some level. And what you can do is if somebody tries to repo your car, you can actually get them what's called a breach of the peace, and you can get them to stop taking your car. And believe it or not, if they breach the peace when they try to take your car, it's a consumer law violation. And in fact, if they call the police to try and take your car and they still don't have a court order or paperwork with them, and the police assist in recovering the car without the paperwork, the police can be in trouble for a civil rights violation. It's crazy. So we want to help people out. We want people to know that there's something they can do and all this stuff. What I want to do is make sure that you guys all understand your rights so that when you come talk to us, you can deal with us fairly. Now, first of all, our lawyers, I'm going to give you some forewarning. They're going to want to see your credit reports. So don't be afraid. Get your credit reports and give it to these guys. They're not scamming you. They're not going to steal your information. They're lawyers. They have a lot more writing on the line. They're not going to take your information and run around the block. They need your information. They want to see everything that's going on. They're basically financial consultants at this point for you. They want to go through your credit report line by line, and they're going to make sure that everything on there is right, true, and accurate. And if there's a bunch of debt collections on there, they're going to work through them all with you, because we don't want to talk about just the one debt collection company that's after you. If there's 6 debt collection companies on your credit report, we want to figure out what the deal is with all of them. There may be 6 different cases going on. So give us all of your information. Save your credit reports for us. Save your debt collection letters for us. If you have telephone calls coming in on your phone and you're blocking them, I highly suggest you unblock them. Why? We can take them to court for that. We can actually sue them. You can. Did you know this, Sharifah, that you can get paid $500 a phone call if a debt collector violates your phone call rights on the Telephone Consumer Protection Act? If they call your mobile phone after you told them to stop calling and they keep calling and they keep calling, that's $500 a phone call. Do you like $500?
I sure do.
How many $500 do you like?
Unlimited, infinity.
It's infinity. You know what the cap on this is? It's infinity. There was a couple in Florida that actually collected $1.2 million from Wells Fargo Bank when their house went into foreclosure, because there was a robo dialer that kept calling from the bank saying, you owe your mortgage payment, please pay your mortgage payment. Every day they had 3 calls a day from this robo dialer. And so they told the robo dialer, they told Wells Fargo Bank, stop calling. We're never going to get this straightened out. And the calls kept coming for over a year. They tallied up all of those phone calls, went to court themselves, and the judge awarded them $1.2 million on the spot. And in a default judgment, because Wells Fargo Bank didn't show up. It was the craziest thing I've ever read in my life. Then eventually, of course, Wells Fargo Bank showed up. Then my friend John Morgan at Morgan & Morgan showed up, and that judgment was affirmed. And so that means they got to keep that money. So let me tell you something. If you're getting debt collection phone calls, you know what you can tell them to do?
Call Jared. I don't know.
No, stop
Do the
calling.
collector.
No,
Stop calling. I wasn't
calling.
paying attention in class.
No, that's why I'm doing this. Yeah, you need them to stop calling. You need to tell them. You say, you know what? I don't want any more phone calls on my phone. Don't give them any wiggle room either. I used to do that. I used to be like, well, maybe next week. Don't say maybe. Just say no. Just say, I don't want any more phone calls on my phone. Stop blowing up my phone. Goodbye, and hang up. If they continue to call, they have violated the Telephone Consumer Protection Act. What they have done is they have violated your revoke consent. You have revoked your consent to all robodialed and automated telephone calls. And in the Ninth Circuit, where you are in Long Beach, California, it is hugely powerful. You can get recovery and damages for this like you wouldn't believe. And this is amazing. So people are huge lawsuits going on right now in Southern California for this stuff. And you know what? If you like money, tell these debt collectors to stop calling for real. And if they keep calling, I'm going to provide you on my website a cool little log that you can write down and names and numbers of who's calling you afterwards. And so that's why I told you, don't block phone calls, because if you block them, how are you going to know they called you?
Right.
Don't block them. You need to let your phone ring like it's Christmas time on the 4th of July. You need to just let it rip, because it's going to be annoying. But you know what? Do you like getting paid $500 every time somebody rings your phone? I do. I let it ring all day. That's fine. That makes sense to me. So you want to write down this stuff. You want to write down the name and number, who's calling. You can even answer the phone. Say, hey, who's this? Hey, I told you stop calling last time. What are you calling me for? You can have these conversations, because you know why? It shows intent. And you know what happens? There's another level. It gets really exciting. You know what happens? It turns $500 into $1,500 a phone call, because when they violate that law intentionally, the judge can award what's called treble damages and make it $1,500 a phone call. And that's where the money really grows. And so that's what we want. We want to tell them to stop calling. They continue to call, and they, despite the fact that you told them to stop calling, that becomes an intentional violation. You get more money out of it. So we have covered very quickly, mind you, very, very important topics. But you know what? I'm going to say it this way. If you're in debt collections, call me. That's it. I don't want you trying to figure it out. I don't want you to be like, well, do I have a case? I don't know. I don't care. Don't think about it. If you have a debt collector calling you now, you need to call my people. That's it. You don't need to think about it anymore. Just call us. We'll get through this with you. We'll help you out. Because if you do this with us, we're going to make sure it works out. And if we can't do it, we'll tell you. If we can't help you, we'll tell you, because we're going to send you papers to sign and make you a client. It's as simple as that. So bottom line, if you're in debt collections, you're going to come to us. You're going to ask us for help, and you're not going to be afraid at all to share with us your credit report information and all of your private, terrible financial mistakes you've been making over the past years, or not mistakes. You just may have fell on hard times. I know some people have cancer, all sorts of problems. They can't pay their health care deductibles, all sorts of things like that. I understand. I've been there. I know what you're going through. I want to help you out. Okay. So don't be afraid. Show me everything. Show the lawyers everything, and don't be afraid, because we're going to help you get even with these debt collection monkeys. We're going to take them down. We're just take them down. We can do this.
Take them down, Jared. Take them
down. We're going to help you make so much money. It's going to be great. And you're going to be like, wow, I did this like 9 times in a row. What I did was I had all these debt collectors, Sharifah, and I set them all on the kitchen table in my kitchen. And I just laid them all out. And I literally attacked them one at a time. And I sent them all these there's a whole method. There's a whole thing to do there. And our lawyers will help you do it, by the way. You don't have to do it yourself. That's the other thing. A lot of people are like, oh, I got to do all this. Got to do that. I don't know what to do. Don't worry about it. We got it. We're going to help you. We're going to help you with the dispute letters. We're going to help you do it right. We're going to talk to the right people. And you know what? If you have a violation already, you don't need to talk to anybody but us, because we're going to get a hold of the people that violated, and we're going to find a way to get them to write you a check fast. Do you know, that's another thing. I've seen the money come out of this in under 90 days almost every single time. My buddy just moved out of his apartment in Nashville, Tennessee, and he literally has a check now 90 days later. He was going to owe them $4,000. They wrote him a check for $1,000.
Wow.
So tell me, who wants to be in line first on this deal? That's what I want to know.
Yes, we want to be in line first. If you are just now tuning in, I am speaking with Mr. Jared Johnson, president of Sue the Collector. And this is a first for me, Jared. I've never had anyone talk for 30 minutes straight, ever. Usually they give me 2 minutes and they're like, waiting for me to ask a question. I don't even think you needed me at this point.
I just have a lot to say. There's a lot going on here. And like I told you, my passion is this. I am passionate about this. My heart bleeds for America right now. I know there are people that are really trying to figure out how to put food on the table or keep the lights on. And I don't want you to stress out about this at all. I want you to know that somebody is in your corner and is going to stay in your corner, and we're going to fight for you all the way. So don't be afraid. Let us help you. I mean, that's the bottom line. You're in debt collections. You need to just work with us until this thing is over.
Okay, so I have some questions. Do I get to ask questions, Jerry?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I want to know if I can take my show back, because you just kind of took it over.
Go ahead.
But when you say you might have a case and you say call us and don't think about it, you already gave me the answer, don't think about it. But sometimes we feel like maybe the amount that we have in collections isn't high enough, or it has to be, enough to get a case. Are there any items or dollar amounts that you look at?
No, I've seen debt collections for $40. We can get $1,000 check for you for a $40 debt collection. Stupid.
Okay, well, let me go look, see if I owe anybody $40 to see if I can give me 1,000 for 40. But one of the things is when you mention harassment, like that's such like a gray area. And you also mentioned the letters. Like a lot of debt collectors are sending emails now. Are there any guidelines on how often they can email you or contact you or reach out to you?
The language in the email needs to be legally compliant. So the moment they send you an email, save that email, because in that email, there needs to be disclosures. There needs to be all sorts of stuff in there. And those disclosures are missing, and they're trying to collect debt through those emails. Forget it. It's game over. We already got them. So that's what I'm saying. Like, a lot of people want to like look at that and go, I don't know if I got anything or not. Don't think about it. Just hand it over to us. We'll look at it. We'll tell you what's going on. We're the experts. We're the legal experts on this stuff. That's what we're trying to tell you, because if you try and second guess this too much, you're probably afraid to reach out to us, and then you won't even get anything out of it. The best thing to do is just go, yep, I got a debt collector calling me, and just call us next. Let us see what's going on. Treat us like your really, really smart brother or your rich uncle. You know what I mean? Like, you need to call, he knows what he's doing. I'm just going to let him figure it out. That's it. And get a glass of wine and then drink that wine real slow while we figure out legally how we're going to put them in a financial vice. That's it. That's what we're going to do for you. And so the bottom line is a lot of times you get these debt collectors, they'll collect for anything, and they'll try every way to get the debt. So a lot of times these ways that they try are all violations. So that's what I'm saying. Like, the only way to really summarize it is if you're in debt collections, call us.
So just any debt collection, call you. It could be medical bills. It could be utilities. You said the gardener or somebody earlier, whoever it was.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, as long as it's a consumer debt. It has to
Mm-hmm.
be a consumer debt. If you took money out, like for instance, on like a Square business loan or
Mm-hmm.
let's say Cabbage, those things,
Yes.
any of that stuff, no bueno. We can't
Mm-hmm.
help you. There is no consumer. There is no business loan law of any
Mm-hmm.
kind for business loans. So if
Mm-hmm.
you're in a business loan and you can't pay that thing back, they can do crazy stuff to get that money back. I'm telling you right now. So be careful with those loans. There's all sorts of usury laws and things like that that they can go against you for. But if
Mm-hmm.
it's a consumer law, meaning your Best Buy credit card, Chase, Citibank, your Synovus, all these other things, real bank cards, medical debt, student loans, mortgages, everything that consumers buy. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
everything. And then and let me carve this out. Please don't call us about your child support payments. We ain't helping you with that. We're like, they took money out of my bank account last week. Uh-huh. Yeah. So, sorry, guy. That's not a consumer debt. It may feel like one, but it ain't. Child support and alimony don't count. Criminal restitution don't count. This is not a consumer debt. You
Mm-hmm.
stole something, you need to pay it back. But if you borrowed money on a legitimate contract, that's a consumer debt. So those are your differences. That it has to be consumer debt in order for us to help you, though. It's a good
Mm-hmm.
point.
Mm-hmm. But you also mentioned that there were third-party debt collectors and the initial debt collectors. I've also heard that independent third parties can't collect on that debt.
Yes, they can.
So that's what all
Mhm.
these debt collector companies are.
They're third party debt collectors. Now, there are different companies that will buy your debt as well. So
Mm-hmm.
they'll own it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then there's all sorts of dummies on the internet that have been passing on the stupidest rumor ever. They say
Mm-hmm.
once a company buys your debt, it's no longer really collectible because they
Mm-hmm.
don't, you don't have a contract with them. That's the dumbest thing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Mortgage companies buy other mortgages out all the time. It's called debt
Mm-hmm.
buying. It's a real thing. And
Mm-hmm.
these debts are also just other debts. They're just buying those debts as well. There's a whole debt buying industry out there. And so
Mm-hmm.
let me tell you, if somebody buys a debt from you or a past due debt that went in default, if they
Mm-hmm.
bought it and they own it, it's theirs to collect. So
Mm-hmm.
they can actually sue you over that debt. So a lot of people will be like, they can't sue you over that debt. They get sued over that debt. And all of a sudden, before you know it, there's a garnishment or an attachment or a lien on their bank account. And they're like, how'd that get there? And
Right.
it's like, that's because you read something on the internet that wasn't true. And believe it or not, you can go on Snopes. Snopes even
Right.
covers this. I've a lot of people argue with us on Facebook with our Facebook page, Facebook/Sue the Collector, and people will be like, if a debt buyer buys your debt, you don't owe it anymore because you don't have a contract with them. Not true. They can
Mm-hmm.
sue you over that contract. They hold it. It is like a car. It is like any other tangible item. If you bought a car from somebody, just because you bought it from them doesn't it suddenly doesn't make it yours because they owned it before. This is the
Mm-hmm.
craziest thing I ever heard in my life. They own it. They can do stuff to you. Don't screw with them because if you basically ignore them, they have all the advantage. What
Mm-hmm.
we want you to do is just pay attention to them and look for the violation because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of these guys are so bad at debt collecting in the first place, they violate the law right off the bat. So
Mm-hmm.
just what you need to do is acknowledge the fact that they do own that debt and they will collect that debt. And what you need to do is you need to actually be patient and get a hold of us and talk to us about it and be honest with us about it. And don't believe the junk on the internet that says that you don't owe it anymore because some dude sold it to some dude. That ain't going to work out. I promise you that.
I've heard that though. I've heard that on the internet. I've read that on the internet, and that the original company was covered by their insurance company. So nobody's out this debt. They're like triple collecting on the same debt that they've all already been paid for.
Yes, the original company used it as a tax write-off as a loss because they
Mhm.
lost money. So they do make profit on the other money they made that year. That's true. But they also did really lose money on you. And what they can do then as a taxable, they can actually write off the taxes. We just covered this. Donald Trump's been doing this for over a decade. He loses money on some stuff. He makes money on other stuff. The money he loses, he uses to write off on the money he gains. This is how companies do this. This is our tax system we have in America. And so bottom line is they will write that loss off. Does that mean, however, that the debt is gone? It doesn't. The debt still exists. it's still on paper, and they can sell it again and again until somebody wants to collect it or until it statutorily expires. And
Mhm.
so there are limits to how far back a debt can go, and it all is regulated by your state. Now in California, it's 4 years. Okay. In my state in Tennessee, 6 years. In other states, it's up to 10 years. In some states, it's 15 years. So it
Mhm.
really depends on where you live and your statute of limitations on debt collections for consumer debt, because some states do not allow them to collect debt past that statute. It becomes uncollectible. If they try to collect the debt past the statute, they have violated the statute on its face. That's a good thing, and that gives you the ability to sue the collector.
You like to work that into the conversation. Just sue the collector. I want to just look at everything now, just go through everything and see how it looks. Like if I even got a letter, I want to almost just give it to you. I don't know, just look at it. It might, be
Yeah,
something they're doing
you
wrong.
don't know. To the average person, they get these debt collection letters and they just assume it looks like a regular good letter, and it ain't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we tell them not to try and figure it out themselves. It's not worth it. You might just overlook something. It might be even the smallest little thing in there that makes it illegal or legal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we can see that. And a lot of times what they'll do is they'll put the disclaimers or disclosures on the back of the letters for you can't see them. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And they're supposed to be up in front on the bold. There's stuff like that. There's little things like that where you're like, but the disclaimer's right here on the back. It's like, yeah, but it's supposed to be up here on the front because that's how the law reads and stuff like that. You know what I mean? We want to actually help you get it right. And you know what? If you try and help yourself out before you call us, you might help yourself out of some money, which ain't no good. So, I don't want that. I want you to
I
make
don't want that either. But I know so many people get intimidated just at the sound of the word lawyer.
I know.
When they hear there's a lawyer or an attorney involved, it's like, I don't know. I don't want to embarrass myself. Since we talked about embarrassment, I don't want to be embarrassed by calling your company up and you tell me, okay, I don't know why you contacted us with this letter or this information.
I don't know how it could be embarrassing. I'll be honest. The first time I ever won my first case, I told everybody. And you know what happened is people were like, "You do what? Huh? How did that happen?" Like they couldn't believe it. And I was like, "Did you know that's a violation? They can't do things like this." And they were like, "No, I've never heard of that before." So
Mhm.
honestly, for me, it became a bit of a bragging point because I was like, "Yeah, well, I don't owe that no more." And they're like, "Are you serious?" And they're like, "Yeah." Totally don't owe it anymore. And in fact, they even put money in my hands. I got a check last week. And they'll be
Mhm.
like, this is crazy. How'd you do that? So it almost becomes like a cure for cancer kind of a thing. You know what I mean? Like you tripped over this like jar of magical cancer cure in the woods. And you're like, why keep it a secret? You know what I mean? There are other people that need this cure. And this is why I'm doing this, because
Mhm.
honestly, people really need this help right now. And there's so many more people going into debt collections into next year. It's going to be absolutely bonkers. And we
Mhm.
need people to reach out to us right away so that they can actually get the help they deserve. And,
Mhm.
we don't want them paying bills they don't even owe. There are people with identity theft. They're paying on identity theft, Sharifah. Their
Mhm.
identity was stolen and they think their credit's going to be ruined. So they make payments to these poor people and they shouldn't. These are huge
Mhm.
cases. Believe it or not, if anyone's listening, if your identity's been stolen, really stolen, don't lie to me about it. I know some people call and say my identity was stolen. They're just trying to get out of paying the debt. Don't do that. I want people that really have had their identity stolen, like their niece or nephew stole their identity, or some drugged out like roommate in your apartment stole your credit card, stuff like that. You need to call us because
Mhm.
we can actually get a lot of money for you. Those cases are worth way over $1,000. I've actually seen some go into the millions of dollars. And because a lot of people, these older ladies that are just being scammed out of all sorts of stuff, they usually get huge, huge rewards. And I mean, it is absolutely worth it. We know some people that like get these crazy jobs done on their house, and then all of a sudden all these debts go crazy, and like all of a sudden this lady has a bill for $50,000 for a debt she never even agreed to on a roof
Mhm.
job and stuff like
Right.
that. And that's all consumer debt, believe it or not. And so all of a sudden this whole scam pops up, and that is a violation of California consumer law and is a violation of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. And we have seen huge, huge awards for those kinds of cases because they were tricked. They were fooled into doing things they should never really agreed to because
Mhm.
they're elderly. So we want to talk to anybody that's elderly, that's a firefighter, policeman, ambulance driver, any of these kind of things in the military. If you are served your country and you're being ripped off or something's going on, we want to talk to you. We can get you millions of dollars. No kidding. And this is, I mean, this is so highly important that you reach out to us, because all we want to do is help you out and get you the legal help that you need for free. We're no obligation. I swear, no catch at all. I know a lot of these people think there's going to be some catch, or I'm going to have to write this lawyer a check or whatever. No, you're not. You never will. I've never had to do it. The only checks that have ever been written came to me. Mm-hmm. So, up to you. Whatever you want to do.
We want to sue the collector. That's what we want to do. We want to find out all of these reasons and all of these ways. Now I'm going through my memory, trying to figure out if there were some opportunities that I might have missed. But I definitely want to do that. Now, I know you mentioned it at the top of the show. Some people may just now be tuning in. So I just want to real quick go over, you gave us 3 points on things to do, what to look for, the steps to take. Can you give those again to us, Jared, please?
Again, please, I want you to keep all debt collection letters. If you get a debt collection letter from anybody, I want you to keep it. If you get a summons from a sheriff and you're going to be served on a debt collection lawsuit by a credit card company or any kind of debt collection lawsuit, keep all the paperwork together in one place. We need to look at all that stuff, okay? Secondly, if you're getting phone calls from debt collectors, unblock them. Unblock them. What are you going to do?
Unblock them.
Unblock the phone calls. We need to know who's calling you. In fact, answer those phone calls. Find out who's calling you and dig in a little bit. What I love to do is I answer those phone calls, and they can be a little nasty sometimes, but I love to just be like, Captain Clouseau, just like Inspector Gadget, just like, so where are you calling from? Okay. Can you give me your address? Okay. Da, 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 da. You know what I mean? This is what I'm talking about. I need you to get all this data and information and everything. And I need you to write it all down from whatever they tell you on the phone, because we need to know who we're suing. Because if, for instance, they don't really want to say who they are or whatever, you can maybe get that information for us before we even get going on the case. And so you can be a little bit, and like I said, a little bit detective and finding out who's calling you and for what reason. Because if you actually get the information we need, that is the bottom line, is we need this to actually work out. You know what I mean? So you need to call us and tell us who's calling you and why. And you could have given us 80% of the information we needed before we even filed by just digging in a little bit on those phone calls and answering those phone calls, because they're very important. There's lots of information on those phone calls.
Mm-hmm. So it's basically going from the defense to the offense. Like, yes. Instead of just letting them bully you and ask you all these questions, you turn it around and ask them the questions to get the information that you need to know.
Right. Correct. Absolutely. We want to turn the tables right away on them. We want to find out exactly why people are calling and for what reason. Mm-hmm. And if we can figure that out, we can help you out.
I think you can. Now, Jared, it has been a pleasure. I've learned so much from you. It's been a very interesting interview. I don't even think it was an interview at this point, but it's been a very interesting show. We are coming down to the last few minutes of the show. And what I love to do at the end of every show is just allow my guests the opportunity to speak directly to the audience, to everyone who's watching the show live, as well as everyone who's watching in the archives, and simply let them know. And I know you already said it a million times, but what you want them to take away from your appearance here today.
Again, please, if you're in debt collections for a consumer debt, okay, please don't call us about your child support. We're not going to help you with that. But if you are in consumer debt collections, we want to help you out. My attorneys are standing by right now. Call us. Go to suethecollector.com. The telephone number is on the website. Give us a shout. We will talk to you. If you don't get through to us, call us in the morning. We will help you out. Save all your paperwork. Answer all your phone calls from debt collectors and write down everything you can about them. Make sure that you do not throw anything away. Get your credit reports. Get your most recent credit reports, and you can get them for free at annualcreditreport.com for free. It's a government one. And so go to annualcreditreport.com. Get all 3 credit reports today. Get a look at your credit reports. You're going to need to do that. You need to highlight any and all debt collection companies that are listed there. And we're going to go through everything. We're going to fine-tooth comb. And if we can find a case, we're going to help you get paid, because that's what we do at Sue the Collector.
I love it, Jared. I want to thank you for being today's guest on Ask Sharifah Videocast. You're stuck there. I also want to thank everyone who tuned in to watch the show live, as well as everyone who is watching the show in the archives. We definitely appreciate your support, but please don't just watch this show. Go ahead and share the show and visit suethecollector.com. Don't visit the website later. Stop what you're doing. This is very important. It might just change your life. So visit suethecollector.com today. And if you are interested in being a guest, please visit my website at asksharifah.com. Until next time, everyone have a safe and a blessed day. Bye now.